Good morning, readers. Well, it is a cold and snowy day here today in Calgary, so it's looking like Christmas. Hopefully, you're able to get your Christmas shopping done in spite of whatever lockdown measures are in place where you live. And hopefully, it's a little bit warmer there than here, although can't complain. It is winter, so we kind of expect that kind of weather. My blog this week was on what's coming up next. So I have talked about the next three books that are coming out, which are from the Zachary Goldman Mysteries series. She Told a Lie, He Never Forgot, and She Was at Risk. A little bit of an intro in that blog if you're unfamiliar with Zachary to introduce you to him. And I thought I would do a short reading from She Told a Lie today. This is not right at the beginning. It's fairly close to the beginning, but I didn't want to record the same the same thing as I'm going to record on release day. I wanted to give a little bit of variety, so this is a little bit further into the book. Zachary is talking with Reese, and if you've been reading the series, then you're familiar with Reese, who's been in it since She Was Dying Anyway, which is book 3, I believe. And if you're not, then the background here is that Reese is a teenager, a young friend of Zachary's, and he is mostly non-speaking. So the dialogue in this scene is not all going to be spoken dialogue. All right, so here we go. Reese leaned forward again. The amusement left his eyes. He tapped his phone screen looking for something. Reese had come to the apartment for a reason. He clearly hadn't told Vera, his grandmother, that he was going to see Zachary, or she would have driven him rather than his taking the bus. If she approved of his going to Zachary's, which she probably didn't, she preferred for the two of them to meet at her house rather than anywhere they might be seen together. People might misunderstand their relationship. Zachary moved down the couch closer to Reese and leaned in. Reese tapped a picture and turned the phone around for Zachary to see. She was a pretty girl, a teen around Reese's age, cute, dark-haired, smiling at something off-screen. She didn't look like she had been aware that her picture was being taken. There was no attempt to ham for the camera. Most of the phone pictures of teenagers Zachary saw posted on social media had them posing, making faces, or had some popular filter or photo booth alteration. Zachary nodded. Is this your girlfriend? He asked, and then made the kissing sound that Reese used to designate Kenzie. Reese shook his head, serious. His mouth turned down naturally. He always looked sad, and Zachary knew that, like he did, Reese struggled with depression and his traumatic past. There'd been too much violence in the Salter family, and it had left its mark on Reese. He rarely spoke more than a word or two, and, even when communicating using his phone, usually avoided even written language, falling back on memes and GIFs that the recipient had to interpret. What is it? Zachary asked. Reese looked at his phone again. He tapped and swiped to find another picture, then turned it to Zachary again. This time the girl was smiling at the camera, her lips bright red. She hung on the arm of a tall, blond boy. He was a little older than she was, maybe still a teenager, maybe 20. He wasn't looking at her or the camera, but off to the side, eyebrows down like he was worried or suspicious about something. Is this her boyfriend? Zachary asked, though he already knew the answer. Reese nodded. He turned the phone back around to look at the picture himself, and for a while just sat there, quiet and unmoving, contemplating the picture. Did something happen to her? Reese nodded. His dark eyes were full of sorrow. Zachary reached out and touched Reese's shoulder. What is it? What happened? Reese made a blowing up movement with his fingers, flicking them outward. At the same time, he puffed up his cheeks and blew the air out in a poof. Zachary searched Reese's face, wishing he could read the interpretation there. The gesture had not been violent, so he didn't think it was an explosion. More like a puff of smoke, a magician. Now you see it, now you don't. Zachary considered, biting his lip. She disappeared, he asked finally. Reese pointed at Zachary, nodding. And the boy? Reese continued to nod. You think he had something to do with her disappearance? Reese's eyes closed, and he nodded again. Zachary could feel Reese's pain and anxiety over her disappearance, like it was centered in his own chest. How long has she been missing? Reese held up 4 fingers, then 5, then made a wobbling motion with his hand. 4 or 5 days, more or less. Long past the I was just at a friend's house period. Have you asked what happened to her? Do you know? Reese's lips pressed together into a thin line, and he gave a slight headshake, brows drawn down. Zachary had broken a cardinal rule of their communication system: never ask more than one question at a time. Sorry. Do you know what happened to her? Reese shook his head slowly. The slowness of it and the tension in his expression told Zachary that he didn't know for sure, but he had his ideas. Did you talk to his family? He had to bite his tongue to keep from asking more follow-up questions. There was an urgency to their conversation. He wanted to move it along faster, but communications with Reese could not be rushed. Reese shook his head. Have the police been called? Is she a missing person? Reese gave a wide shrug. Zachary was impatient, but he waited, analyzing their conversation and thinking about the pictures and about Reese being there, waiting for him. You want me to look into it? Reese smiled, nodding emphatically. Zachary nodded and sat back, thinking about it. There was certainly no problem with his making some initial inquiries. Maybe her parents could tell him what had happened to her. Hopefully there was an easy explanation for her disappearance. Maybe she'd gone to visit a sick relative, or her parents had put her into a better school. There were lots of reasons a teenager might be at school one day and then not show up the next. Okay, yeah. Can you give me her name and anything you have about her? Contact details? Reese tapped away at his phone, and in a moment Zachary had her name, phone number, and a couple of social network names on his messaging app. Madison Miller. Got it. Can you send me those pictures? Reese nodded and sent them over as well. Do you have others? Reese was still. He considered the question. Zachary furrowed his brows. If you want me to find out about her, then I need whatever you've got. Reese shook his head. He pushed his phone into his jeans pocket. Zachary looked at him. What's going on here, Reese? What aren't you telling me? Reese motioned to Zachary's phone. He had the information he needed. But Zachary knew, going into it, that he didn't have everything. Reese was keeping something from him. Are you worried it could get her into trouble with her parents or the police? Reese shook his head, but his expression was still veiled. Zachary didn't know if he were telling the truth. There was definitely something that he wasn't prepared to reveal. Reese, I understand that you're trying to protect her, but sometimes not knowing what I'm walking into can be hazardous. I don't want to get hurt, and I don't want anyone else to get hurt because of what I don't know. You know that I've had some dangerous cases lately. Reese shook his head and drew a straight horizontal line with his hand. Nothing unsafe? Zachary asked, to be sure Reese's meaning. I don't need to worry about what I might be getting into here? Reese gave a single nod and pointed at Zachary, his sign for you got it. Zachary looked back down at Madison's information and sighed. I'll do what I can, he promised. Now we'd better get you home. Your grandma doesn't know that you're here, does she? Reese's hand made a wobbly side-to-side shake. Well, yeah, that's what I thought. Ask me to come to your place next time. She doesn't want you coming over here. If you call me, I'll come. Reese shrugged. Zachary was left wondering how much else he was trying to get away with behind Vera's back. It wasn't likely the first time that Reese had hopped onto a bus and gone somewhere other than home or school. All right, so there's your teaser for She Told a Lie. That is available for pre-order right now. Head on over to my blog and it will give you all of the details there. The next couple of books, He Never Forgot and She Was at Risk, are both also available on pre-order. Links are on the website, and I didn't pull up a picture here, but the first book in this series, She Wore Mourning, is available for free download. So if you haven't gotten into the series and would like to see next week, happy Christmas season, and hope that you're enjoying it.